And this president doesn't have good faith disagreement with any orders. He does not care. He is a lawless criminal. And we have basically a criminal regime. And if you believe that they are going to are going to abide by court orders, they're not going to do it. They're already probably trying to slide around the court orders. And one of the things that he's a narcissistic sociopath. That's the thing everyone has to kind of get used to. It's the reason why you cannot normalize him. You cannot treat him like a normal human being because he's not. He is unwell. And that's why he can't follow. He's not going to be able to follow his lawyer's directions. That's why, he played right into the plaintiff's hands in the E. Jean Carroll case. They're trying to show basically he's a jerk. And what does he do?
Something almost unimaginable just happened live on national TV, and this time, Trump couldn't twist it, shut it down, or walk away. George Conway, the man who's been a thorn in Trump's ego for years, finally dropped the truth bomb many had been waiting for. But it wasn't just about Trump's failed presidency or his mounting legal troubles. Conway went straight for the core, exposing the hidden fractures in Trump's marriage to Melania, portraying it as a calculated business arrangement rather than a genuine bond. The way he delivered it, calm, measured, and looking straight into the camera, felt less like political commentary and more like a public dissection of Trump's private life. And somewhere, Trump was watching furious.
I guess they don't like me, but let me just tell you, these are losers from day one. Guys like Bill Kristol, he's 0-32. George Conway, you take a look at him. Just take a look at that guy. The man's a stone-cold loser. So they should not call it the Lincoln Project. It's not fair to Abraham Lincoln, a great president. They should call it the Losers Project. Okay, thanks.
One of the things that is sort of interesting about the Trump people is they're not loyal to each other, and not even to Trump in some ways. I don't mean the Trump voters, but I mean the people around him. They are all as self-interested as him. They are all trying to make money by acting as gatekeepers to Trump.
George Conway didn't just take a jab, he lit up every illusion about the Trump marriage. Sitting across from MSNBC's cameras, he tore apart the idea that their relationship was anything but a performance. There's no love story here, he said. It's all brand management. He explained how Melania's silence wasn't loyalty, but survival, how every eye roll, hand swipe, and icy glance was a calculated signal of distance, not fleeting tension. As Trump's lawyers fight in court, Conway showed his personal image crumbling in real time. This wasn't speculation, he mapped out patterns and deliberate moves so clearly that even veteran anchors were left stunned.
The other thing that he did was to show that this is his modus operandi. He intends to, he's willing to use the threat of violence or to incite violence in order to coerce government officials to either forego enforcing the law against him or to, violate the law as he sought to have Pence and members of Congress do on January 6th.
But Conway wasn't done. With sharp, deliberate precision, he shifted the focus to Melania's role in Trump's rise, not as a passive bystander, but as a calculated strategist. He highlighted her sudden disappearances during Trump's biggest scandal, Stormy Daniels, Access Hollywood, the E. Jean Carroll trial. Each time, Conway said she vanished like a brand manager quietly pulling a defective product from the shelf. He questioned whether her silence was complicity or self-preservation for the day it all collapses. The timing of her appearances, the flat statements, the guarded body language, Conway laid them out like courtroom evidence. This wasn't gossip, it was a cold, methodical dismantling of the Trump household.
First of all, you're ruining your own reputation. Secondly, you're betraying your profession, your professional oath. Thirdly, you are betraying your country because you're doing harm to your country, because you're creating the impression that this administration cannot be fought for all of the illegalities that we've been talking about.
Right.
This is an administration that is punishing people because the president is a convicted felon and is angry that he was almost brought to justice, and he wants to inflict harm on the government, and also his people he wants to inflict harm on our legal system, and he also wants to deter people from fighting back to all the illegal things he's doing. And when you capitulate to him, you are encouraging them to send more people to El Salvador, including potentially American citizens, because they want to create a system where everybody's too afraid to provide legal services to fight against the illegality. And one more thing here is, they're doing this because of money. Money, and here's what's going on with this. The firms that are capitulating, and I know this because I spent 30 years practicing at a law firm that did mergers and acquisitions work, okay? And it's a very lucrative form of work, and you get paid only if the deals go through. And you get paid a significant amount, a percentage of the deal. It's lucrative business, and it's fine business in ordinary times. And they're afraid that the government won't approve the deals of their clients. Well, sorry, guys, you're destroying your reputation in an environment where there aren't going to be any deals because the president is destroying the economy and the U.S. dollar. So you are doubly foolish.
ChatGPT said, what stunned viewers wasn't just Conway's words, it was what he left hanging in the air. He all but confirmed whispers about Trump's declining mental state, the paranoid rants, the unhinged meltdowns behind closed doors. Conway said Melania knows it all, but chooses distance over confrontation. She's protecting one thing herself, he stated. Then almost casually, he dropped a chilling question. What if Melania has been documenting everything? The idea landed like a grenade. Could the former First Lady be quietly building a file, preparing for an exit no one expects? Social media exploded. Even Trump's usual defenders went unusually silent. Because if Conway's right, the most devastating blow won't come from a courtroom, it'll come from Melania.
They don't want to obey laws, they don't want to obey rules, they don't think they can lie down. And Donald Trump has no moral conscience and no empathy. He does not care about anybody else other than Donald Trump. Which is why, in this first term, he said, Article 2 lets me do whatever I want, Article 2 of the Constitution. The first Trump term, which I call Shit Show 1, was an assault on the rule of law, but it was only like it was like cancer. It was like a stage 1, maybe stage 2. We got to stage 2 right around January 6th. And he was a threat to the rule of law. And then he went into remission.
This takedown wasn't just personal, it was calculated. Conway targeted Trump's deepest vulnerability, his need for control and unwavering loyalty, and the one person who gives him neither Melania. According to Conway, that's what truly terrifies Trump, not her silence itself, but what that silence contains. Conway called her the most dangerous witness alive, not because she would testify, but because she wouldn't need to. She's seen everything, the threats, the payoffs, the meltdowns, and in her silence lies power. It was a moment of brutal clarity. Trump's political fights may dominate the headlines, but the real battle could be inside his own home. If Melania ever turns on him or simply walks away, Trump won't just lose a wife. He'll lose the illusion that holds his empire together.
After Donald Trump won in 2016, your name was floated as someone who might work in his administration. You turned that down, and
I was offered the job of head of the Civil Division of the Department of Justice, and I filled out all the forms. They ran my background check, and I was interviewing people who were going to work underneath me. I was sort of far along there, and then I just started having this queasy feeling like I don't really want to work in this administration. Because what I saw was a shit show and a dumpster fire. And I just got to the point where I just couldn't do it. And so I didn't. And I was one of the best decisions I'd ever made. Okay, I admit I was wrong to support Donald Trump in 2016. I was horribly wrong. It was a horrible exercise of judgment. I knew better. I should have known better.
George Conway didn't need to raise his voice. He let the truth land on its own. One anchor called it a televised dissection of the Trump brand. Conway detailed how Melania has remained eerily silent while Trump sinks deeper into legal and political trouble, but he didn't paint her as an innocent bystander. She's not simply enduring the chaos, she's timing her exit. He warned. He pointed to her carefully crafted image of disinterest, all while keeping the legal protections and financial advantages of a former First Lady. Prenup renegotiations, distance at rallies, the frosty body language Conway framed them all as signals that she's waiting for the perfect moment to disappear, leverage in hand.
Stage 3 is basically where we are ignoring laws and running roughshod over laws. I mean, you know, they're basically refusing to spend money appropriated by Congress, which is against the law. The law requires the president to spend money. The president can't not spend the money that's been allocated for particular subjects. And you've got this guy who's not been appointed lawfully under the Constitution.
Let's talk about that.
Musk. And so that's stage 3. Stage 4 is going to be, well, these courts are telling me not to obey orders. Why should I? I don't want to obey the law, so why am I obeying the courts? And stage 4 is metastasis. Stage 4 is when democracy can die, and the rule of law can die, and constitutionalism can die. And we unless something happens radically, I can't see how we don't get to stage 4, because the logical path that they are taking, which is that the law doesn't apply to us, and nobody can enforce the law against us.
Then Conway dropped what many saw as the real bombshell, the possibility that Melania could be either Trump's ultimate protection or his greatest downfall. He's terrified of her, Conway said, not emotionally, politically. That line set social media ablaze. Conway explained that Trump's ego isn't most threatened by prosecutors or the press, but by the one person who's seen everything and kept quiet. Melania doesn't need. To speak her silence is a weapon. It hints at guilt, manipulation, even betrayal. And Conway suggested Trump lives with the constant fear that one day she will break that silence. The cameras didn't need to cut away. Everyone watching knew this wasn't just commentary. It was a warning.
You don't want to diagnose him, but I think if you look at the diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, he fits every single one of them. It's like the criteria were made to describe him. And I think what we saw with this tweet yesterday is that last final collapse of Donald Trump's mental state. I mean, you think about it, those were like 50, 60, 70,000 people in the aggregate in five rallies in different states. That's loopier than saying that the moon landings were staged, because there were tens of thousands of people were there. To think that is crazy, and to try to sell it to people is just as crazy. He's done. His brain is fried.
As the interview went on, Conway grew more reflective but kept his edge. He admitted regretting the times he once defended Trump and said watching Melania operate reminded him that the entire Trump empire runs on transactional loyalty. It's all leverage, he said. From the courtroom to the bedroom, Conway drew sharp parallels between Trump's legal strategy and his marriage. Delay, deny, distract. Melania, he argued, may be using the same tactics but for her own endgame. Staying quiet gives her power. Staying close lets her gather evidence. The subtle glances, the pointed wardrobe choices, the cold handshakes, they weren't coincidences. They were messages, and Conway made it clear. She could be the most important silent player in Trump's eventual downfall.
Tara Schreckman wants to know from you, George, do you expect Trump to target you and other staff of the Lincoln Project? And if so, do you have a defense plan?
I don't have a defense plan other than whatever he pulls up is going to be meritless. My finances are simple. It won't, I don't fear him. And I think one of the things that that people don't quite understand about Trump, but they really should, is the fact that he's a bully and he wants to pick on people who won't fight back.
That's when the tone shifted. Conway warned that when Trump feels cornered and exposed, he becomes unpredictable and dangerous. If Melania chooses to leave, he said, she won't just walk away, she'd blow everything up on her way out. If she talks, it's over, Conway stated flatly, and the room went silent. This, he explained, wouldn't be about infidelity or public embarrassment, it would be about the secret she's witnessed firsthand, the rage, the lies, the manipulation. Conway suggested Melania might hold the single thread that could unravel the myth of Trump's invincibility. And for the first time, even some of Trump's most loyal supporters seemed unsettled, because if Melania turns in, Conway implied, she may already be preparing to that changes everything.
He's a sociopath, and it's one of the things about sociopath is that they don't plan, they don't think, they just emote, and they're impulsive, and they act on their whims and impulses, and the last person who talked to them. And that's why you have, and then also they have the power, they love the power, the feeling of power that they get when they say, I'm turning this on, I'm turning this off, I'm turning the lights out, I'm turning the lights on, I'm raising tariffs, I'm lowering tariffs, I'm telling everybody in Tehran, 10 million people to evacuate. I'm telling them they're safe for now. Okay? He gets off on that, and then he gets bored with what he said yesterday. And of course, he doesn't necessarily remember what he says or care what he says yesterday. So tomorrow's going to be something else.
And here's where Conway left his audience hanging. He never said it outright, but the implication landed like a warning shot. What if Melania has already flipped? What if her absence from Trump's campaign isn't distance, it's preparation? Conway described her moves as calculated, her silence as deliberate, turning the entire narrative on its head. Melania isn't staying to protect Trump, she's staying to survive him, and when the moment comes, her silence won't be weakness, it will be the calm before the storm. This wasn't just a takedown of a marriage, it was a dismantling of the mythology surrounding Trump's power. And if Conway is right, Melania, once dismissed as a silent accessory, could be the final domino that brings the entire empire crashing down.
This is Donald Trump leading the Republican Party off the cliff. This is a man for whom there is no bottom, and Republicans are just afraid to call him out. He's saying we're in the middle of this war where Putin, who can't be trusted for a moment, who murders political opponents, who slaughters women and children, and Donald Trump is focused on what? Himself? Because he wants to get revenge for losing the 2020 election. He says, okay, let's see their dirt on Hunter Biden. I wonder someday that maybe we won't have a president in Russia who actually acts in the best interest of the Russian people and behaves himself before the world. Maybe President Navalny. I mean, pray to God that somehow that could happen. And maybe we'll see the files on Donald Trump. I think those would be interesting.
And just when it seemed the humiliation had reached its peak, George Conway dropped a truth bomb aimed squarely at Trump's most fragile insecurity, his manhood and relevance. Live on air, Conway didn't just dismantle Trump's political record. He went after the core of his legacy. You don't need to impeach Trump again, Conway said evenly. History's already erased him. The host bit back a laugh, but the internet didn't. Hold back memes, hashtags, and viral clips flooded social media within minutes. Conway's delivery wasn't loud or chaotic. It was surgical, precise, and utterly devastating, each word slicing away what little dignity Trump still clung to. Reports soon surfaced that Melania, watching from home, quietly left the room midway through the broadcast. In Trump Tower, the silence must have been suffocating.
Absolutely, I do think that. I think it was most propitious timing. I think this needed to be done no matter who the Democratic nominee was, for the simple reason that Donald Trump has been getting basically this easy pass, double standard on his behavior, because we've seen so much of it, and it's basically been normalized, even though it's completely bizarre. We almost kind of don't bat an eyelash at him talking about sharks and electrocution and Hannibal Lecter. I mean, he's been doing crazy stuff like that for years. So he has this weird advantage, and that's part of the advantage. The other part of the advantage is that people are afraid to talk about mental health issues of any sort. lest they give offense or they don't want to stigmatize people. But I mean, this is just so different. I mean, this is the man, the question, this is the question of the mental stability of somebody who would have control of the second largest nuclear arsenal on the planet. I mean, this is just, you just can't look at it the same way.
But Conway wasn't finished. He pivoted to the subject that, for Melania, cuts deeper than most her much-mocked Be Best campaign. Without ever saying her name, he skewered the contradiction of championing kindness while standing silently beside a man known for relentless public cruelty. Silence, Conway said, isn't always neutral. Sometimes it's comfort. The audience didn't need him to explain who he meant. The reference landed instantly, setting social media ablaze. Melania's office offered no statement, but whispers from former insiders told tabloids she felt the jab was personal. For years, she had walked the razor's edge between victimhood and privilege, crafting an image that allowed her to survive in both worlds. But Conway's remarks threatened to push her off that edge entirely. What began as a calculated political takedown was quickly mutating into a slow, public unraveling, and the country couldn't look away.
Donald Trump has never, ever been right in the head.
The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. An enormous, really an enormous. We got up! And then they announced there was no buys, no. We've endorsed JP, right? J.D. Mandel. Take a look at the oranges of the investigation. Venezuela. If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, they say the noise causes cancer. I know more about wind than you do.
I don't know what I said.
Joe Biden won against Barack Hussein Obama. They have voter ID. They have ID on everything. You buy a loaf of bread, you have ID. The first non-incumbent. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple. People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to one injection inside or almost a cleaner. That an illegal one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Learn more at psychopac.org.
Then came the sucker punch. Conway exposed the ultimate contradiction: a man obsessed with control, now losing his grip on everything: his party, his image, and maybe even his marriage. He's a man who couldn't hold on to the truth, let alone his own family, Conway said, sending Twitter into a meltdown. Within minutes, Hat Melania Knows was trending, ricocheting across political threads, podcasts, and YouTube. Headlines: was it speculation? Sure, but the look on Trump's face the next time cameras caught him tight-lipped, red-faced, fists clenched told a different story. The nation was no longer just mocking Trump. They were dissecting his downfall in real time. What made Conway's assault so brutal wasn't just the words, it was the pauses. The deliberate space he left for the audience to fill with their own conclusions. The implication that Melania might already be gone in spirit, that Trump's family, his allies, even his inner circle had abandoned ship. You can hear the desperation now, Conway said in his voice, in his rants. In the way he clings to threads that aren't even there, even conservative pundits flinched at the precision of it. The narrative wasn't just shifting, it was collapsing. Trump, the self-branded strongman, suddenly looked like he was living in a glass house, and Conway was hurling bricks. Then came the final blow. Staring straight into the camera, Conway delivered the one line Trump never wants to hear: he's not feared anymore. He's pitied. The studio went silent. No laughter, just the heavy, settling weight of truth on a name that once felt untouchable. Pity is political death for a man like Trump. It strips power, erodes influence, and worst of all, invites mockery. And for Melania, pity carries its own price. Because once the world starts seeing you as a prop in someone else's downfall, the next question comes fast and unforgiving: why did you stay? That's a question Melania might not be able to dodge forever.